and welcome to Format. My name is Sven Harvey.
And I'm David Zabilia.
And today we're going to talk about Shadow of the Beast. Now, a lot of you will have seen the trailer, which we'll be having coming up in a moment, thanks to Sony for allowing me to show it. Basically, it was a big surprise at the event in Germany last year, which is Gamescom. I was sitting there watching the footage coming through from the event, wearing this t-shirt, and then this came up and I just went, oh.
Peggy 18.
A bit of surprise, but it was interesting that the feedback from it that went across the internet was basically everybody going, oh, it's a brand new IP, wow, this is great. And then certain journalists were going, oh, it's apparently some old Omega game and all this kind of stuff. And I just sat there, I was like, what are you doing? So let's tell you about the other Shadow of the Beasts.
Iconic games for those of us who played Amigas. I mean, granted, it was the second one that was released on multiple formats, wasn't it?
Well, the first one did get released on other formats, but it wasn't. It was only after it was successful on the Amiga and the ST to a degree, and then it came out on other things. Amazingly, including Commodore 64 on cartridge, where they actually managed.
That was cheating. That was cheating.
And they managed more layers of parallax scrolling than the Amiga version did.
Which, to be fair, was one of the major selling points of the game, because it was the first game that had gone to so many levels and so many colours.
Yeah, at the same time, it was quite amazing at the time. And the ST version was only slightly tweaked down in comparison, which really was stretching the ST and was finally showing what the Amiga could do. Because at that point, and this was 1989, almost every game that had come out of the Amiga so far at that point had literally just been an ST port, which were taking no advantage of the Amiga's special hardware.
Yeah. Although I find it kind of ironic because obviously gamers of our generation who had the Amigas go, it was an iconic game.
Yeah.
It was actually quite hard to play. The playability of the game wasn't really its selling feature.
No,
it was the graphics and the music.
Yes, and all three. Yes, and there had been 3 Shadow of the Beast games already, and all 3 the music is great. And the first one had David Whittaker doing the music, and the second one and the third one was Tim Wright. So yes, you can't knock the music in any way, shape or form. And the graphics in 1989 were, you know, a massive step forward and just grabbed people's attention. What also grabbed people's attention was the size of the box.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. You've got to admit, it is
artwork
gorgeous. I
is
mean,
gorgeous.
I'll work on this style of game. Well, I'm going to say this style. On the old cardboard boxes that the games used to come in was always good, but this really stood out.
Now, the reason why it was this size is because it came with a T-shirt in the box, which kind of helped make up for the fact that when it came out, it was one of the most expensive games ever produced at the time.
Yeah.
Because it was £35, which in today's money, with inflation worked into it, works out about 53 to 55 quid.
Yeah, which, to today's gamers...
Yeah, exactly. So, this was quite a step forward. And then in 1990, because that had done so well, along came Shadow of the Beast 2, with this T-shirt in the box.
Yeah.
There we go. This is the one...
So do you feel you got, your wares worth?
I think I've got my wares worth out of that.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one, actually, because Shadow of the Beast, the first one, came out in 1989. When it came out, the Amiga 500, which was the main machine it was played on, was $499.99. So with inflation now, that's like 800 quid.
Again, today's gamers are going...
Yeah.
And today's gamers who play on Alienware are going...
Yeah, quite. But it was interesting because they did a demo of this which went around as a floppy disk that even had a program on the floppy disk to copy itself onto other disks.
Yeah.
Which is quite clever. So you put it in the do you want to run the demo or do you want to copy the disk? So it ended up everywhere. And every retailer of Commodore machines had it running in the shop, and people literally would go, "Whoa!"
Yeah, but and remind me what a PC was running at round about the same time period.
About 4 colours.
There you go. I mean, but the thing is, even for games on the machine, it still stood out as being. The graphics were, for its time.
Absolutely. I mean, in the UK especially, because I know anybody from the States who are watching this, you've got to bear in mind that the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Master System had got nowhere in this country at this point. They were making no inroad whatsoever.
It has been forever since I actually played this game, and I can't remember, and I really want to remember how many discs.
Yes, floppy disks, people. This is what this game was on.
So you see, this is the trouble when you don't want to damage old packaging. There we go. I finally managed to open it, and I love the fact that in the tray.
Yeah.
Cassette tape
tray, yeah.
Cassette
tape discs. So both the first two games on 2 floppies.
Yeah.
So
although big upgrade between the first and the second. Printed artwork on the...
So that was when Psygnosis was really starting to make a name for itself.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know who Psygnosis are, they were basically responsible for a lot of very graphically intensive games in the 80s and 90s, and could allegedly be one of the reasons why the Amiga got attention along with Team 17 and a few others, Electronic Arts as well, with Deluxe Paint. That was back when Electronic Arts made paint programs. That's scary, isn't it?
Ironically enough, the last time I used my Amiga, which was middle of last year actually, it's been a while, I was using the paint packages.
Yes, because the thing is, there isn't a better pixel painter out there.
No, pixel painting you can't make.
For those of you who are unaware, okay, this is the flop. The game came on 2 floppy disks. You literally just swapped them, and you played them on this.
Oh yes.
Now that's an Amiga 500,
and a beautiful machine,
which was the first home Amiga that was released. So it was $499.99 when Shadow of the Beast 1 came out. However, by the end of 1989, this had been re-released as something called the Batman Pack, because it had the game from the 1989 Batman film in it, in the box, and they'd reduced the price. Big black, and they'd reduced the price to $399.99, including the TV modulator, which was previously an add-on. Yeah. So you could actually plug it into your TV directly, and it came with this brand new blockbuster game, which was absolutely brilliant. It was back when a company called Ocean was actually making really good movie tie-ins, and that was probably one of the best ones at the time. It was interesting because it was that year as well that RoboCop turned up on home formats as well. So all of a sudden there was the Shadow of the Beast grabbing attention. There was RoboCop on floppy disk as well to play on it, and a Batman game, and the Batman game sold these machines. That Shadow of the Beast demo sold these machines at $399.99. They flew. That pack was the biggest selling Amiga pack ever, and it was sold over 2 million units of just that.
Well, the thing was, it was an incredibly powerful home machine.
Yeah.
This is still at a point where most offices barely had computers.
Yes, exactly.
And a lot of the ones that did, all the big offices that had them, were using monochrome.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is that at this time, a £2,000 worth of PC would beep and be in 2 or 4 colours for display, literally. If you wanted a graphics adapter for VGA, you were talking a lot more money. So yeah, it was an interesting time. Now, for Christmas 1990, there'd been another pack which had New Zealand Story in, and then the Screen Gems pack, which came out from Christmas 1990, had the A500 in. It had the 1 meg upgrade in at that one point, because the A500 was released with Batman was a 512K machine, and they put at the bottom there's a trap door here that you put in an extra half a meg of memory, megabyte of memory, to make a full 1 meg of memory on the thing.
Although ironically, did make the door stick out slightly.
Just slightly. Oh, well, especially if it was the official one with the metal shielding around it. And it came out in the Screen Gems pack with Back to the Future Part 2. It had the Nightbreed game, and it also had Shadow of the Beast 2.
Playing Nightbreed. I do not remember playing Back to the Future.
Really?
That might have been one that got past me.
To be honest, both of them were awful. So no, the best game in the package was Shadow of the Beast 2. Yeah, it was quite interesting. Now, interestingly, is that all of the Amiga packs from Batman onwards had deluxe painting from Electronic Arts as standard, which is why one of the reasons why the Amiga ended up being the bedroom coders machine, because people could make the graphics. You could get AMOS and things like that to make the program itself, and Pro Tracker and things like that meant you can make music. Now, the Amiga became known as quite a wonderful piece of equipment for making music on, which was quite ironic considering the Atari ST had the built-in MIDI ports for MIDI keyboards. So that was 1990, and then after that there was Shadow of the Beast 3. Now Shadow of the Beast 1 got converted to several formats, so it was on 64, it came out on various other formats, it actually came out on Mega Drive as well eventually. Shadow of the Beast 2 came out on several formats. because this was around about the time, it was just before Lemmings went mental, because Lemmings came from Psygnosis as well about a year
Lemmings
later.
was an awesome game.
Yes. This proliferated out, but bizarrely Shadow of the Beast 3 didn't sell awfully well because things like the graphical standards had caught up with it and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they changed their graphic format slightly, didn't they? They went for that duller look.
Duller look. They tried to be in vogue in the early 90s.
It really didn't. Ironically, one of the strongest selling points for the game, which obviously was not the playability,
no,
but was definitely the graphics and the music.
Yeah.
And they shot themselves in the foot by going, you know what? We'll just make the graphics look like what everything else in the time looked like.
Quite. I mean, it was a bit of a shame because in 1989 they were standing out.
Yeah.
In 1990 they were still standing out, and then everybody else just caught up to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And by that point we were starting to get snifters of things like Alien Breed and stuff like that. So, you know, it was.
Although, when you were playing it, did you ever sort of think, R-Type? There's a couple of bits.
That one section, especially that one section, I think it was the first Beast game, where you had the end of level baddie. You're floating,
the eye,
firing,
the eye on
a
thing,
tail thing, and you're like, really? How did IREM not do you for that?
I liked the fact, and it goes to show a trend within gaming. The second game, it was the human, more human, which just shows character evolution within games.
Exactly. I mean, this is the thing: is that at the end of the first Shadow of the Beast, the character basically regained his human form. But what was interesting in Shadow of the Beast 2 is when his human form died in the game, it disappeared into the skeleton of the original thing. So there was the Shadow of the Beast, because this was the thing. It was in the first game. It was suggested that the Shadow was in fact the bad guy in charge of everything, who'd robbed the character of his humanity. Then in the second one, it was more a case of it was a shadow of his former self, and so on and so forth. So even in the original games, the term Shadow of the Beast kept meaning different things. And in fact, it kept getting to the point where the shadow of the bit kept disappearing, because everybody was referring to it as Beast 2 and Beast 3. And even the T-shirt doesn't even say Shadow of the Beast.
No.
It just says Beast 2. So yeah, interesting marketing that.
But it does go to show that even back then, marketing was a major factor in game evolution.
I mean, the way they marketed that by sending around the demo disc, that was amazing, absolutely. And considering people, lots of retailers had no idea what to demo on the machine.
Yeah.
In lots of cases, you went into a retailer who was just sitting there with the blue workbench screen up.
Yeah.
Like, that's really showing off what the machine can do.
Yeah,
but I mean, looking at the original Shadow of the Beast games, all three of them, to be honest with you, they weren't great games.
From a playability point of view, no.
They were an experience. And this is the thing, is that a lot of people now put a great amount of sort of like emphasis on the experience of playing the game rather than the actual gameplay itself. And to be honest, this might have... Shadow of the Beast 1 might have been the thin end of the wedge for this whole graphics and sound being more important than the gameplay.
Yeah.
This was maybe the turning point that allowed the British industry especially to go along that route, which maybe it needs condemning to a degree for that.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, I played some games recently, Star Trek, that is cutscene after cutscene after cutscene after, and it's just... I'm sorry, but if I wanted to watch a film, I would have put it in a Blu-ray.
Yeah, exactly.
And this, you can choose the direction of the game. No, you can't. You're following one of half a dozen linear paths.
Exactly.
They keep saying, you're doing this, you're doing that. You're not. You never do.
Yeah. At least with this, you haven't got cutscene after cutscene after cutscene.
No,
it couldn't.
It couldn't do it.
So everything was done in engine. So, I mean, even when you suddenly lost control a little bit because it was guiding you to a certain point.
But it was only a very short period.
So that was fine. But what the Shadow of the Beast games did, though, is inspire an entire generation of kids,
Right.
teenagers, into making games.
Yeah.
So this combined with Deluxe Paint and everything else that was running around that time, suddenly people thought, ooh, I could make my own one.
See, it's funny you should say that, because you're right, but I knew more people that bought the machines because they heard the music and wanted to be able to create the same music.
There was that. I mean, this is the thing.
A major factor.
Is though the Commodore 64 was actually really reasonably good for sound, and the SID chip was really good for its time. That was 1982. By the Amiga 500 originally came out in 1987, and it really took off in 1989. And the fact that you could very easily get a little cartridge that plugged in the back, you could feed in audio leads and sample anything you liked, so you can make your own music. Create your own instruments, and the tracker programs like Pro Tracker and Noise Tracker and Sound Tracker and blah 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 blah, they all allowed you to do pretty much everything with 4-channel sound in this. And there was Octamed, which got really clever and started managing to mix the tracks.
Yeah, but they were always really clever with the chipsets. I mean, Moore's law was never more apparent than when it came to the Amigas. You know, the way that the operating systems worked with the chipsets was always so far ahead of its time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if the company hadn't have gone through the problems it did.
Well, the main problem was not developing the machine properly, to be honest. But the thing is that it was... And we'll cover the Amiga a bit more detail another time, but one of the most important things about this was the fact that the CPU was separate to the graphics, was separate to the sound, and they all co-processed. And that was the first time any machine really had done that. There was actually separate RAM for the chipset to use and fast RAM for the processor to use, which is basically the way we are now with system RAM and video RAM. And this is where your GPU came from, basically. If it hadn't been for this, there would not be GPUs.
Yeah, but not a lot of people know that.
Now, the Shadow of the Beast games were released by a company called Psygnosis. Now, Psygnosis were actually bought by Sony Computer Entertainment on the run-up to when they were going to release the original PlayStation, along with Millennium, who did things like Robocod and... Robocod. Yes. James Pond, Robocod. That's brilliant. And they did things like Wipeout on PlayStation 1, and they released Destruction Derby, Destruction Derby was actually done by the same team who did Shadow of the Beast.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention Wipeout, because when you said, I want to do this, I was like, you know what, I really want to listen to that. I haven't heard any music in ages. And yet Wipeout was another game that some people had trouble with the playability, although I'm not quite sure why, because I found it very easy. I say easy, very challenging, but the interface is easy enough.
And it was one of the stars of the original PlayStation release.
The music stands out more than the gameplay.
Yeah. And it's interesting with the music actually, because the majority of the tracks on the PlayStation 1 version were actually licensed from various groups and various artists in the underground techno scene at the time.
Yeah.
Some of the tracks though, and all of the tracks on the PC version and on the Amiga version of Wipeout 2097 that eventually came out. Yes, that came out on the Amiga. You needed one hell of an upgraded A1200 to run that though. Were done by Tim Wright, who did the music to Shadow of the Beast 2 and 3. So it all ties into itself. It's very nicely. He actually did Gravity Wars not long ago as well.
Gravity Wars? I don't know that.
That's on PlayStation 3 and the Vita.
Oh, okay.
It's Thrust. Basically.
Can't beat a bit of Thrust.
So and now then Psygnosis basically got folded into Sony Computer Entertainment, became Studio Liverpool essentially, and then unfortunately were closed just after they'd done Wipeout 2048 for the Vita. Though apparently there's rumours of something going on because apparently Wipeout for the PlayStation 4 has become a thing again, because it looked like it'd been cancelled, it might not be cancelled. It's all rumours and speculation at the moment. Now, the new version of the game for PlayStation 4 has been done by a British team who are fans of the original, which is quite cool. Looking at the trailer, it does look like they're going for a different emphasis of Shadow, because you've got that whole into the ground thing and the two shadows coming up of himself using as a battle sort of like formation, which is quite cool.
Well, you can see that, especially with the way the controller works. That
Yeah.
it'd be really easy to jump between.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see quite how that's all controlled. Because of course with PlayStation 4 you've got the touch sensor on top as well, so it'll be that'd be quite interesting to play with. But the game itself does look very much of now.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of the God of Wars about it.
You think?
Yeah, it feels, just from the way he's battling through the bad guys or whoever guys at the beginning of the trailer to a certain degree, and then there's a lot of people have gone basically, oh, is that Shadow of the Colossus kind of thing when the big guy comes up, so you're just thinking
well, it depends how many times you can punch a toe.
Yeah. This is the thing, this is the original game with Punch a Toe. It's like, oh, I've killed you in septicemia. As he drops his club on you. I'm like, really? But it'll be interesting to see how it turns out, and I'm hoping that might also mean that now, because the interesting thing is Sony, after they showed this trailer, and everybody in the audience were looking and going, okay. Everybody watching at home went, Shadow of the Beast?
I wonder how many of those people are actually watching it going, oh, a new game.
Yeah, well, this is the funny thing is, when the character first turns up on screen, I was basically going, no. Can't be. That looks like...
I remember the phone call.
Beast.
I remember the phone call after.
Oh yes, I called you directly afterwards, didn't I? And I was like, David, you wouldn't believe what happened in the Sony press conference. I was sitting here in my Shadow of the Beast t-shirt, and he went, no. I went, yeah. New Shadow of the Beast game. I'm just hoping, because they've re-trademarked the Psygnosis name just afterwards. So I'm like, ooh, cool. Are we going to get the little owl logo on things again? I'm just hoping as well we might see the original ones converted to the Vita, because that'd be awesome. As a portable release, that'd be quite cool. Because both, I don't know if you know, Alien Breed and Super Frog have both been released on the Vita and the PS3.
Yeah. I was disappointed they didn't release it on the PSP, because PSP could have more than handled it.
Well, the thing is that they're not really...
Yeah, I know they're not. I'm just thinking it could have done it.
But what they did do is that the if you buy one of them on the one format, you get
them for everything
free, and then you can upload your save file to the cloud.
I hate that term. It's a massive computer sitting under a mountain somewhere, just sucking up pictures from Facebook. It's not a
you basically put the save file onto Sony servers from your PlayStation 3, and then you can continue to play where you were on your Vita and vice versa, which is brilliant. It's cross-play, basically. Cross-play and cross-buy, which is just like fantastic.
It's a great idea, but again, it's just purely the term.
I know.
The term.
But what?
Why don't they just say uploading to Skynet? Be done with it. I'd be happy.
What was interesting with the Alien Breed game actually is you had the updated version and you had the original Amiga version on there, original graphics. So I'm just wondering, hello Sony, can we have the same with these? That'd be quite fun. But it'd be interesting to see where it is now. Shadow of the Beast doesn't have a release date yet on PlayStation 4. In fact, we've seen a trailer already.
It's very
interesting. So I'm hoping for Christmas this year. If not,
it'll be
next year.
No, there's no way they're going to release it in 2013
the trailer,
and keep us waiting till 2015.
Because we'll see.
I honestly think it's going to be the big
footage. It was just a cinematic trailer. So
they've had a lot of interest on the internet though. There's been a lot of buzzing about it.
So fingers crossed we'll have that out for Christmas and we'll see what it's like. But I think that's it for Shadow of the Beast.
Yeah, I think so.
No, absolutely. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back with a new format very soon.
Good night.
It does look like they're twisting a new version of the shadow part out with this whole. It creates two shadows of himself to use as, in battle, and the trailer does have a little bit of the
Punches down.
Yeah.
Shadows come up.
Yeah.
So.
The trailer does seem to have a little bit of the God of Wars about it, maybe.
What, when the punch down?
Yeah. It's sort of like it's.
But that one was Superman. It was about.
Yeah, but bringing up the shadows. That's obviously the Shadow of the Beast interpretation. Really.
Really.